What's good, folks? It's KnightmareFrame here with an insane Warframe video. So this was a challenge set for myself, and it's a fun concept. I'm bringing you 6 different Equinox builds for every situation, and this will come super handy for Equinox fans. So the challenge was to come up with as many builds as possible on one Warframe without using an additional version of the Warframe with different polarities.
Wait, is this really a KnightmareFrame video?
Yes, it is. So the great thing is that these builds are all in one Warframe. This is where I wish I had more loadout slots. And all these builds require 5 Forma, an Aura Forma, and 4 regular Forma.
Okay, hold up. This can't be really a KnightmareFrame video. He's actually revealing the amount of Forma it took to make this. Nah, dude.
Yes, it is. The reason why I don't display the amount of Forma I use on my builds is because people will usually interpret the Forma used as the Forma required to make the build. Also, my frames have ridiculous amounts of Forma used on them, as I do tend to experiment with different builds here and there. So let me quickly run down Equinox and her abilities before I get into the builds, as they will make more sense once you know how she functions. Equinox abilities will depend on her 2 forms, night and day. Each form will provide her with specific abilities corresponding to that form. Her day is the offensive form, while night is her defensive form. So, Metamorphosis, her first ability, allows her to swap between night and day. When swapping to each form, you gain a buff that scales of power and duration. While in night, you gain increased armor and shield capacity, and while in day, you gain increased movement speed and a damage multiplier.
You are say it's viable for speed Equinox?
No, I tried. The speed multiplier is sad, even with 335% power strength. Anyway, that's basically her first ability. Her second abilities, Rest and Rage. In night, you have Rest. Yes, you sleep at night. This allows you to put your enemies to sleep. Rest scales off range and duration, and enemies put to sleep are susceptible to stealth multipliers, and while they're asleep, they are open to finishers. In day, you have Rage, because who loves waking up early morning on a Monday? This allows you to debuff your enemy and speed them up, pretty much like Nova's Molecular Prime. You actually need to aim and use the ability. Rage scales of power, range, and duration. Moving on to her third abilities. So weird saying it like that. Pacify and Provoke. In night, you have Pacify. This ability emits an aura that slows enemies down and reduces their damage by a certain percentage. Pacify scales of power and range. While the aura is active, the ability will drain energy with each enemy within it. The damage reduction diminishes with distance, meaning the closer they are, the less damage they do, and vice versa. And the energy drain can be reduced with efficiency mods. While in day, you have Provoke. Okay, is it just me, or do her abilities sound quite bipolar? Anyway, this ability also emits an aura, but this time it grants allies a power strength increase. And this scales of power and range once again. So yourself and allies gain that power strength increase. This power strength increase will also add on to the damage and buffs of your other abilities, but it cannot exceed that 50% power increase unless you use the augment for this ability. While Provoke is active, it drains energy when you and allies use abilities within the aura. Okay, now moving on to Mend and MAIM, her final abilities. In night, you have Mend, another aura ability which is a channeling ability, draining energy over time. While active, it provides a regenerative aura that grants shields per enemy kill. Also, Mend will accumulate a portion of the shields and health of the enemies killed within the aura, and once released, all stored up hit points will be distributed to everyone as shields and health, making her a great support frame. Mend scales of range and power. The shield gain per kill is affected by power strength, while the hit point conversion is not, meaning you don't need any power strength for the burst heal when you release the ability. In day, you have MAIM, a channeling and damaging aura ability that deals slash damage, bleeding your enemies and staggering them for a bit. MAIM accumulates damage when enemies die within the aura. Once you release, you can deal all of the stored damage back to the enemies. It's basically an infinite scaling damage ability. This ability scales of power and range, but then again, the power does not affect the accumulated damage. So that means no need for power strength mods if you're modding for this ability. Alright, let's head off to the build section. Now all the builds you will see here are on one Equinox. I used an Aura Forma and 4 regular Forma, so in total it's a 5 Forma build. Starting off with a DPS and heal build, a build quite a few people are familiar with. And that is the Mend and MAIM build, and the aura will be Corrosive Projection. This is a useful aura, as MAIM won't deal massive amounts of damage to heavily armored units. My range is at 250% with Stretch, Overextended, and Cunning Drift. This means a 45 meter radius on my 4th ability. I have max efficiency with a rank 4 Fleeting Expertise and Streamline. Prime Continuity for some duration to reduce the drain and negative duration. Flow for a decent energy pool. Vitality for some health, which works as a decent defensive mod. And finally, Natural Talent. This mod is a must, especially if you're casting your 4th ability a lot. It increases the casting speed and animation by 50%, making the ability more fluid to use. And you can swap between night and day to be a DPS or a support. It works both ways. Don't forget to take a nice damaging weapon to help kill the bad guys and store up all the damage. And don't worry, your allies will also contribute to the damage and hit point accumulation. This build is viable in a lot of places. Don't worry about the negative strength, as that doesn't affect the release damage at all. Alright, moving on to Equinox. That is such a weird thing to say. This build will rely you to be in night form 100% of the time, and I will only be using Rest, the 2nd ability, in night. This build is useful for solo focus farming, leveling a friend, or leveling your weapon super fast. The great thing about this ability is that you can affect enemies through walls, and it's even better to know where the enemies are all the time. Hence why it's a 100% must to have enemy radar on this build, giving you a 30 meter radar to spot incoming enemies, and to help with pathing, and getting yourself in position ready to crowd control those enemies. It's also built for max range at 280% with the use of all the range mods, giving Rest a 140 meter cast range and spreading to enemies within a 14 meter radius. Streamline and Flow to give me that efficiency and a nice energy pool, because you'll be spamming your 2 quite a bit. Primed Continuity for the duration to keep the targets asleep for a decent amount of time. With the 155% duration, I'll have 34 seconds on Rest. Using the augment Calm and Frenzy causes the sleep effect to spread within the area for 100% of the remaining duration. With the range I have, it spreads within a 14 meter radius. And Vitality for some defenses, but you can replace it with Augur Message for even more duration. Now for those who think Equinox is squishy, well, I give you Tanquinox. It's also another weird thing to say. I did release a video about this, but I have long since improved on it. You would need to be in night 100% of the time, since the abilities that make us tanky are only available in night form. I'll be using Pacify and Mend to reduce enemy damage done to me and also slow them down in the process. And if we're in trouble, we can fully heal ourselves with Mend. And while we're building up Mend, we can use a healing melee to DPS and keep the HP topped up at the same time. If you want to know how the healing melee works, do check out my Immortal Valkyr build. This build pretty much makes Equinox tanky and immortal. The aura can be whatever you want, but the Exilus will have to be Handspring for that 160% knockdown recovery. Spending less time on your butt will keep you alive longer. Power strength is at 210% with the help of the 2 Umbral mods and Transient Fortitude. The 2 Umbral mods increase the tankiness with the additional health boost, but the power strength gives us that damage reduction we need. Peaceful Provocation allows us to go over the 50% base limit when it comes to slowing down enemies, and brings the slow to a maximum of 80% speed reduction. Duration isn't important in this build. Streamline is there for the efficiency. Energy drain will be insanely high with the amount of enemies you deal with, since the more enemies attack you, the more energy you lose. This is only when Pacify is active, so Rage is also there to supplement the energy loss by converting 40% of the health damage taken into energy. Stretch increases the aura range. This in turn helps us more with the decent control of damage reduction, because the further the enemies are, the more damage they deal to you. That's if they don't miss their shots. And finally, Adaptation, 2 ranks from the top, granting me a 9% chance to have 90% damage resistance to any status effect. And here in the Arcanes, I'm running with Dual Guardians for the additional armor to boost the tankiness. I mean, who thought a squishy little girl can be so tanky? Anyway, another unique build that I'll bring to you is the Buffquinox. Yeah, these names are weird. trust me. This build will require you to be in day form. This allows you to buff the power strength of allies while also being a decent DPS in the process. For example, with my buff, I was able to bring my friend's Mirage Eclipse buff to 906%. That's pretty damn high, and that kind of damage is absurd, especially from a Mirage. And this buff build is useful in pretty much any game mode, especially in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, to buff the Rhino to then buff everyone else. The aura I'm going to use is Growing Power. A reminder, the aura forma allows me to have any polarity in the aura slot. So Growing Power increases power strength by 25% when you inflict a status effect on a target. You want to trigger Growing Power first and then activate your third ability. With the build I will show you, when you perform these steps, you should have 50% on your provoke when it's first activated. And then you can proceed to kill a few enemies within your aura to get a maximum of 80% on your buff. So as I said, the aura is Growing Power, and you will need a decent amount of range on this build. You can achieve that with Stretch, Augur Reach, and Cunning Drift in the Exilus. That's 190% range. That's a 30 meter radius on your provoke, and 34 meters on your MAIM. That's if you want to use it. Peaceful Provocation to raise the maximum cap of your Pacify and Provoke to 80%. The power strength is at 223% with Transient Fortitude, Augur Secrets, and Umbral Intensify. A rank 4 Fleeting Expertise for 50% efficiency, and Primed Continuity for the duration and the drain reduction. Now for those people who love to play with themselves, I want you to interpret that however you want, you naughty bastards. For those who know what I mean, you're correct. I'm talking about the Duality Equinox. Personally, this build is one of the worst, as the AI is god-awful and can't aim for it can't aim. And yes, you can take this build to index and do some work. But is it efficient? 100% not. Is it fun? Sure. If you love playing with yourself, that is. I'm sorry. So this build is pretty strange when you look at it. Yes, the aura is physique. Do you get that much health with all the health mods combined? Barely. You gain an additional 112 health, but it's good to have the health as it boosts the health of your Spectre. I said health a lot there. The build is pretty simple and straightforward. A max duration with all the duration mods equipped. This gives a Spectre a whole 30.6 seconds of active time, which is pretty ridiculous and short, come on. But you can recast the ability to refresh the duration, but then that causes you to switch forms in the process, which can be quite irritating if you want to be in one form. Vitality and Gladiator Resolve to boost our base health, because without any health mods, having Physique as an aura won't benefit us in any way. Duality gives the Spectre 300% damage multiplier. And no, this cannot be scaled with power strength mods, so that's why power does not matter on this build. And everything else is a filler slot. Try giving your Equinox a weapon that has a decent spread and can murder things. Even arc guns can be wielded by your Spectre, and it can be taken into index, but there are way better frames to do that. Even with all the HP, the Spectre is still very squishy, and you can have your Spectre survive a bit longer with the help of two focus schools, Unairu and Vazarin. Under Unairu, you can utilize the Void Shadow and the Void Chrysalis. While in Void mode, Shadow renders any Warframe invisible within a 25 meter radius, and Chrysalis gives any invisible ally an 80% damage reduction. But these tend to drain quite a bit of energy, so under Vazarin, you'll have an easier job to keep your Spectre alive by using Protective Dash. Void dashing into a Warframe gives you 5 seconds of invulnerability and heals them over time. Simple and clean. Alright, for the final build, where you need a Speed Nova but you don't want to play a Speed Nova and just want to chill with Equinox. This build speeds enemies and debuffs them with the use of your Rage, the second ability in your day form. Very useful in defense missions. The aura will be enemy radar, giving you a 30 meter enemy radar to help with pathing and to spot enemies faster on the minimap. I have 250% range with Cunning Drift in the Exilus, Stretch, and Overextended. This gives me 125 meter range on the cast and a 12.5 meter effect radius. Duration at 128%, this gives me 28 seconds on the Rage effect. Power strength is at 218% with the help of Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, and Augur Secrets. This allows us to deal 138% damage to the affected enemies while increasing the speed by 55%. The Augment, Calm, and Frenzy allows you to spread the effect inflict with 100% of the remaining duration to nearby enemies when you kill a target affected by rage. And finally, streamlined to give some efficiency. To help with the energy, I recommend running Zenrix and Energizing Dash along with Death Cube equipped with Energy Generator. It's great for energy maintenance. Anyway guys, holy cow, this was a fun and crazy challenge. 1 Equinox, 6 builds. A huge thanks to the people who helped out to make this video possible. Well, this has been it from me guys. If you've enjoyed and found this video helpful and informative, please feel free to leave a like, share, and
subscribe.
For more Warframe content and so much more, do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.